The war between Russia and Ukraine rages on as the Ukrainian capital of Kiev came under a fresh wave of missile attacks. The latest attacks come as US President Trump warned of restoring sanctions on Russia. Authorities in Kiev confirmed that the city came under missile attacks. However, they said that there are no immediate reports of casualties or damage. Meanwhile, Russia claimed that a Ukrainian drone struck a bus carrying a children's football team from Belarus in Russia's Bryansk region. Russia's intelligence unit said that the strike killed one woman and injured 7 others, including 5 children. Russia's investigative committee has opened a probe, while President Putin has urged authorities to do everything necessary to help the victims.
On June 17th, a Ukrainian UAV attacked a passenger bus belonging to Youth Sports School number 2 of the city of Rachitsa. On the bus, which was traveling from the Republic of Belarus along the Gomel-Gelendzhik route, there were 44 passengers.
Belarus Foreign Ministry has called the strike of another act of terrorism and demanded exhaustive explanations from Kiev. On the other hand, Ukraine has denied launching drones over the Bryansk region. The Ukrainian army has dismissed Russia's statements as false. Meanwhile, US President Donald Trump has urged Russia to make a deal. Well, Trump also called Russia as the offensive party, saying that Moscow is losing more soldiers than Kiev in this war. Listen to this.
I spoke with President Putin. I spoke with President Zelensky, and he was there. President Putin I spoke over the phone with. And something's going to happen. They're losing a lot of people, a lot of soldiers are losing soldiers. Both are losing a lot. Russia's losing more, because they're the offensive ones, and when you're offensive in war, you lose more. Pretty simple.
Furthermore, the US president warned of restoring sanctions on Russian oil.
Sanctions on Russia, like the oil waivers?
Yeah, I may put them back on. Yeah. I wanted to make sure that oil stayed as low as possible. Now that the oil price is way down, where do you see those numbers? But it's way down. I may put them back on. Yeah.
Meanwhile, G7 leaders hailed a newly found unity on increasing pressure on Russia to end the war against Ukraine. They also welcomed US President Trump's tougher stance on Moscow. French President Emmanuel Macron hailed a very deep change in the US approach. Macron said that President Trump and other G7 leaders simply acknowledged that there was no serious willingness on Russia's part to discuss peace.
And tirelessly, I want to acknowledge the American engagement here in various formats. There was discussion, hands extended toward Russia. So President Trump, like all of us, we simply acknowledge that there was no serious willingness on Russia's part to discuss peace.
Following this, Ukrainian President Zelensky said that he has discussed the outcome of the G7 summit in France with US President Trump and French President Emmanuel Macron. In a statement, Zelensky said that G7 leaders have agreed to intensify pressure on Russia to end the war against Ukraine. He also thanked US President Trump for his attention to Ukraine and his readiness to help bring peace closer.